Hi YouTube. I thought it would be fun to do a series of videos on my experiences with various yogic paths because I have quite a lot of experience in that area. And I'm not going to limit it to just yoga, different yoga paths, but also some other type of paths that I have followed and how that's affected my life and how astrology, how it kind of tied in with my astrological knowledge and becoming an astrologer. And so, yeah, I don't know how many videos it's going to take, but I really want to share with everyone this part of my life. Because when you get into, for me, when I was raised Episcopalian and I was confirmed or baptized and confirmed in the Episcopalian Church, I went to a parochial school, and it was Episcopalian school, and we had to go to church every day for about 30 minutes. And so when you kind of come out of that and you start getting interested in more Eastern types of spirituality, or even not even Eastern, but also pagan types, shamanism, left-hand path kind of things, then it's just kind of a kid in a candy store. You really just see amazing, incredibly interesting things that you never thought of before, and it was quite an eye-opener for me. So I'm going to just start at the beginning. These are going to be short, maybe 10-minute videos, in addition to my astrology videos that I'm trying to get out in quickly, or more numerous. So, okay, so I started I read a book when I lived in Los Angeles it was a Tibetan Buddhist Kundalini meditation. And that was the first book I read, and that kind of really changed my life in a way. I don't even remember the name of the book, but I do remember that it was Tibetan, and it was written by a Tibetan monk in that part of the world. And he talked about Kundalini, and I had no idea what that was, and I had never heard of it before. And so when he started to describe what would happen and what it could do, I said to myself, this is what I want. I want this. And so I started doing a lot of research, and this is going to be funny, but all of the books that I read about it said you have to find a guru, you have to find a teacher, you have to find a mentor, and so I had. And it was Los Angeles, after all. I lived in Los Angeles. So I looked in the phone book under gurus. This was before the internet, took off. I mean, there was the internet, but it wasn't anything like it is now. So I looked in the phone book for gurus, and there wasn't any, but then I did discover something called Self-Realization Fellowship, which is Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. And so I read his book, and I started reading all of their literature, and his guru was an astrologer, so that kind of piqued my interest in astrology for the very first time. So I started doing the techniques that they taught, that Yogananda had taught, through his organization, SRF, or Self-Realization Fellowship, and I really enjoyed them. It took about an hour and a half every day to go through the techniques, do the meditation, and it's the first time I had meditated seriously, and I would do it for about an hour every day. And then there were some other techniques that he recommended that I did that would take about another half an hour, which were also very good. And I kind of found the same thing later on, years later in life, in a different book. Some Tibetan techniques. But in any case, so I started doing his techniques and meditating. The whole thing about SRF, but I really enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it at first because it was a completely different world to me. But after a while, they have a very organized system, and they have a monastery, they have a convent in LA actually, and they have several different temples. And what he did was he mixed Christianity in with his yoga teachings. And the reason I think he did that is because he came to America to preach yoga, to teach it, and his yogic line, and he did a very good job of it. He documented it all in his book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, and so yeah, he mixed Christianity. It was America, and it was in the 20s, I think it was, and so obviously America's very Christianized. So he had to make it palatable for his audience, and I understood that. But there was church every Sunday, services. I wouldn't say church, but services every Sunday, and kirtan, which is actually chanting mantras and that sort of thing, singing. It's basically the same thing as singing hymns, and for me, I'm not. It kind of reminded me of when I would go to church when I was, in Florida, where I grew up, and I was Episcopalian, and then like I said, we went to church almost every day, and then we go on Sundays, and that is something I really can't relate to because it's very exoteric and it's very outward in the emotion, and also when they show you people. When they show you saints, or when they show you yogis, or sadhus, or gurus, or any type of spiritual personage, they say, look at this person. This person lived the life of a saint. Don't you love them? You have to love them. Give your devotion to them. And I find that very difficult to do. I'm not a devotional type of person, and I'm not an exoteric with my spirituality. I don't want to go somewhere and worship when I don't really feel anything. To me, it's very phony. Some people can do that very well. They can project perfection onto somebody. They can read about their lives and what great lives they had, and they can incorporate that story into their life, into their worldview, and it becomes a part of their emotional body. So they can emotionally attach to someone who's been dead for centuries, or even a few years, whoever it is. And so Yogananda had himself and Jesus Christ and some of the saints put up there, some Indian saints and Christian saints, and I can't do that. I can't connect with. Just because I hear a story about somebody and are told that they're such a wonderful person, I just cannot, or that they were even God, they were the Son of God or whatever it is. I can't connect to that because I just can't. It's not part of my life. And so I knew that I didn't really know anything. I just kind of weighed it off. I still did all the meditation, which I enjoyed. But I felt like I was hitting a wall. We had to go through a year of kind of preparation, and we did these meditation techniques. And then we got initiated into Kriya Yoga, and I learned the Kriya technique, and I did that for a little while. And I just kind of, got bored with it, quite frankly. The meditation brought me to a certain point, but it didn't give me those experiences that I had read about in all of these different books. And at the time I met someone, a girl, we became friends, and she was into another type of yoga. And this type of yoga had nothing to do with Kundalini. They didn't even practice that, which is moving the energy through the body. This was more saying a mantra and then listening inside to the sound, like Kriya Yoga, or listening to the Om sound, or listening to the various sounds of the chakras, which you can do. You don't need to be initiating anything. You can listen to them, you know, if you sit quietly anywhere. So I read all of their literature, and this was called Sant Mat. And Sant Mat I was very attracted to it because they had a guru who was alive. And that they really put a lot of emphasis on that, and that seemed to work for me for a very long time. Because he would come to the United States and he would give talks and lectures, and everyone could go see him and ask him questions. And I found him to be very wise, and you know, I didn't feel love for him, or like I didn't have any kind of awe for him, rather than some kind of strange experiences I had when I was looking at him on stage. But I didn't really feel any awe or love. He was somebody that was very knowledgeable and very wise, and that I enjoyed listening to. And then the meditation was very long. And I noticed when I did this meditation, because it had nothing to do with Kundalini, and you didn't move any energy through the body or anything, and then you spent a lot of time listening to the various sounds. Well, it was first of all, it was, for me, the meditation was incredibly difficult to get all of it done. They told you to do 2.5 hours a day. And there was a time, 6 months in my life, where I was meditating 2.5 hours a day. And then the other precepts were the regulations of this path were very strict. And I liked that. For some reason, I liked the austerity of it. And one of them, you had to be a complete vegetarian. You couldn't eat eggs at all, and you couldn't eat cheese, or certain types of cheese. And then you couldn't drink or do drugs or anything like that. So, and that appealed to me for some reason. I liked the stringent, you know, older traditional kind of rules that people used to follow not so long ago, you know, if they were very religious or something. I didn't consider myself religious, but, you know, they said you had to follow these rules if you want to, you know, raise your consciousness and elevate your consciousness. So I did that, and I followed that path for a very long time, years, like 12 years. I did get a lot out of it. For one thing, I noticed my psychic abilities multiplied 100%, or you know, even more than that. I was able to know what would happen. I could read people without even using a medium like, you know, tarot cards or even astrology or anything like that. And so I stayed in it, but I still was able to raise myself in the way that I had hoped, and that in the way that I had been reading about. And even though I had like these really strong psychic sensibilities, but that also I became friends with a few of the people in this path, and you know, they were very good friends of mine, and I connected with them, and they were very nice and friendly, and that was a good kind of thing. And they weren't, you know, partying and all of that stuff, you know, that was totally forbidden to us. And it was funny because I was in a big city in LA, no less, but I enjoyed it. And so I remained in that for a while. But there was no, you know, they said, you know, you have to love the guru or whatever, which I didn't, because it's impossible for me to do something like that. You know, if I don't know them personally, I can't love them. You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. I know it does make sense for other people, it just doesn't for me. So I followed that, and then for many years, and yeah, and then I got into some more interesting types of things, which I'm going to talk about in another video, because I just want to break this up. I just want to keep it in short little spurts. I talked about, the Kriya Yoga and Sant Mat, or it's also called Surat Shabd Yoga. And yeah, that's it for today. I'll make another probably tomorrow or the next day. And I'm going to talk about, I got into Celtic shamanism. I wanted to connect more with who I am, my roots. And I'm European, all of my ancestry is European. So, and had been following Indian or Tibetan types of yoga. And I really wanted to explore that type of spirituality before Christianity came along. And so, and I'm mostly British Isles and Ireland. So I wanted to kind of explore that road. And, a lot of people will say to you, and they've said it to me, a lot of spiritual teachers, and you'll read it in books even, oh, you got to find a path and stick with it or you're never going to go anywhere. Or, you can't be hopping around from one path to the other. And I do not agree with that at all. I do not find that to be true at all, because you have to find what is right for you. And if you don't find what's right for you, in the first instance, or even the second instance, how are you ever going to find what's right? You can't just keep following something because you have to. I mean, that sounds more like rules of this world, And then also you can connect with something very, very well, very much so, for a few years or even a couple of months, whatever it is. But then, the stars change and the planets change, you change. You go through life and you change a lot, and sometimes you don't connect with that anymore. It's provided you with whatever it was supposed to do. It helped you, or what elevated you, and now it doesn't do it anymore. So sometimes you just need to let it go and move on. And a lot of people have a problem with that, which I don't understand, but to each his own. So yeah, I'll make another video soon, tomorrow or the next day, and also plenty of astrology videos coming. So thanks for watching. Bye.